All right, buckle up everyone, because today we're diving headfirst into some seriously intriguing documents. The kind that make you question everything you thought you knew about, well, extraterrestrials and government secrecy.
Sounds exciting. I'm ready to get into it.
I knew you would be. We're talking about two documents in particular.
Okay, lay them on me.
First up, we have the Majestic-12 Group Special Operations Manual.
Majestic.
Yeah, which is dated April 1954. And get this, it's marked Top Secret Magic Eyes Only. Spooky, right?
Definitely sets the tone.
Right. And then we have the SO1 Classified Army UFO Manual.
All right, another classified one.
Oh, yeah. This one has a handwritten note indicating it was kept at Unit KB322 BLDG, 21 Kirtland AFD NM.
Kirtland Air Force Base. Interesting.
So both of these documents claim to be official government manuals, and they both deal with the handling of extraterrestrial entities and technology.
So the big question is, are these the real deal, like actual classified documents, or are we looking at some incredibly elaborate hoaxes?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And that's exactly what we're going to try to figure out in this deep dive.
Love it. I'm all about digging for the truth. So where do we start?
Well, let's jump right into the deep end with what these documents call Operation Majestic-12.
All right, Operation Majestic-12. Let's hear it.
So both of these documents talk about this super secret group, MJ-12. They claim that President Truman created it way back in 1947 to handle the recovery and investigation of, extraterrestrials and their technology.
1947, that's right after the Roswell incident, right?
Exactly. The timing is definitely significant. And get this, they claim that MJ-12 operated directly under the president, no middleman, answering to the top dog himself.
Wow, talk about top secret. It makes you wonder who they thought these beings were and what they thought they were capable of.
It is pretty wild. But it gets even more interesting because they actually list the supposed members of MJ-12.
Okay, so who are these mysterious figures?
Buckle up, because these are some big names. We've got Rear Admiral Roscoe H. Hillenkoetter, Dr. Vannevar Bush, Secretary James V. Forrestal. The list goes on. These are not just some random dudes off the street.
Right, we're talking about some serious heavy hitters here. They were major players in government and science at the time, and I've always found it intriguing how the document connects Secretary Forrestal's death in 1949 to his potential involvement with MZ-12.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation around that.
It definitely makes you think about what might have been going on behind closed doors, especially during those tense early Cold War years. I mean, the world was on edge, and these guys were at the helm of, shaping policy and pushing the boundaries of science and technology.
Exactly. These were the guys making the big decisions. So if they were involved in something like this, the implications are huge.
Absolutely. It changes our entire perspective on history.
And, we can't forget about the events that really captured the public's imagination. One of the documents actually references this sighting that happened in June of 1947, where a civilian pilot reported seeing 9 disc-shaped objects flying over Washington state. 9. And of course, this immediately brings to mind the Roswell incident, which happened just a month later, where that debris was recovered in New Mexico.
Yeah, you can't talk about UFOs and government secrecy without mentioning Roswell. It's like the holy grail of UFO lore.
It definitely is. And these documents don't beat around the bush. They flat out state that the Roswell debris was not a weather balloon like the official story claimed.
So what do they say it was?
They claim it was an extraterrestrial, quote, short-range reconnaissance craft.
A reconnaissance craft. Wow, that's a whole other level, like they were being watched. What else is in these documents?
Well, they even go on to describe the recovery of 4 small human-like bodies found near the crash site.
Bodies. Okay, now this is getting really intense. And what did these bodies look like?
Well, the documents are pretty specific about that. They emphasize that these beings were human-like in appearance, but that their biological and evolutionary processes were quite different from those observed or postulated in Homo sapiens.
So they're trying to differentiate these beings from us, saying that while they might have looked somewhat human, they were definitely something else entirely.
Right, and that definitely plays into that classic image of the alien that we all know, the one with the big head and the large eyes. It's like they were trying to create an image, a visual, in your mind of what an alien could look like.
It's fascinating how they use language to shape our perception, even in a supposedly factual document.
Exactly. But, what about the technology itself? The documents talk about these recovered materials that had some really unusual properties. Some of it was like aluminum foil, but some was like plastic. But all of it was incredibly strong and heat resistant.
It's like they were describing materials from the future, stuff we're only just beginning to understand
It's
now.
mind-blowing, right?
Totally. It makes you wonder if they were trying to reverse engineer this technology back then. Imagine trying to figure out how a smartphone works if you've never even seen a computer.
And the documents actually mention that. They talk about the difficulty in understanding how any of this stuff worked, especially because there were no identifiable propulsion systems on the recovered craft.
Wait, so no engines? How were these things flying?
That's the big mystery. We're talking about potential technology light years ahead of anything we had in the 1940s. It makes you wonder how examining this material, even if they didn't understand it, might have influenced technological developments since then, even unintentionally.
Yeah, the ripple effects could be enormous. Just imagine how studying that technology, even without a manual, might have inspired scientists and engineers to think differently, to push the boundaries of what was possible.
It's crazy to think about. And it leads us to perhaps the most unsettling aspect of these documents. There are entire sections dedicated to cover-ups and public deception.
Oh, this is where it gets really interesting. I'm ready to dive into the conspiracy side of things. What kind of stuff are we talking about?
Well, the documents actually give instructions for things like press blackouts and using disinformation to explain away UFO sightings. They even talk about the possibility of discrediting witnesses and using intimidation tactics.
It's chilling stuff. It paints a very clear picture of an organization that was determined to control the narrative and keep the public in the dark, no matter the cost. The emphasis on absolute secrecy raises a lot of red flags. What were they so afraid of?
It's the big question, isn't it? What could have been so important that they were willing to go to such lengths to keep it secret?
Makes you think about how much we really know about our own history.
Right. And it's not all about cover-ups. The documents also lay out this detailed guide for identifying UFOs.
A guide, like a how-to manual for spotting aliens.
Pretty much. They provide all these specific characteristics to look for to help distinguish real UFOs from things like, conventional aircraft, balloons, meteors,
Yeah.
you name it.
Okay, so they're acknowledging that there are real UFOs out there. What kind of descriptions do they give?
Well, they describe different shapes.
Mm-hmm.
Elliptical, disc-shaped, even cigar-shaped craft that they claimed could be up to 1,000 feet long.
1,000 feet? That's bigger than an aircraft carrier.
I know, it's crazy, right? And they go beyond just looks. They talk about their behavior, sudden changes in altitude, right-angle turns, hovering silently. It's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It definitely explains why people were reporting seeing strange lights in the sky back then. So they're telling people how to identify UFOs, but are they giving instructions on what to do if you encounter one?
They do. They outline these meticulous procedures for handling recovered materials and what they call extraterrestrial biological entities, or EBEs.
EBEs, that's a new one. And the procedures, are they like hazmat protocols?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They stress the importance of protective clothing, contamination control, and of course, absolute secrecy. The level of detail in the packaging and transport instructions is pretty impressive, even if this is all just a hoax.
It's like they're treating this like a biohazard situation. Which, makes sense if you think about it. Contact with an alien species could potentially introduce unknown pathogens.
That's right. And speaking of these EBEs, the documents actually describe two distinct types.
Two types, so not all aliens are created equal, huh?
Apparently not. The first type is pretty much what you'd expect. It fits the classic gray alien description. 3.5 to 4 feet tall, grayish skin, large almond-shaped eyes, the whole 9 yards.
Sounds familiar. And what about the second type? What makes them different?
Well, they're described as being a bit taller, 4 to 5 feet, but much thinner, weighing only like 25 to 50 pounds. They also have larger heads and slanted eyes.
Okay, so we've got the grays and the, what do we call these guys? The slanties.
I guess so. And here's where it gets even weirder. The document suggests that these two types of EBEs might have originated from two different planets.
What do you think about that possibility? Having not just one, but multiple alien species visiting Earth. It's definitely a mind-blowing concept. It really opens up a whole new realm of possibilities. I mean, if there are two, why not 3 or 4 or even more? And what would it mean for us if different alien species were interacting with each other, maybe even competing right here on our planet? And what would be their motivations for being here? It takes the whole idea of alien contact to a whole new level.
Yeah, it really makes you think. But we have to remember, this is all based on these two documents. And we still don't know for sure if they're authentic. So we need to approach this information with a critical eye. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of it all, but it's important to stay grounded in reality.
Right. We need to be careful not to jump to conclusions, even though it's tempting. But even if these documents turn out to be a hoax, it doesn't diminish the fact that they offer a fascinating glimpse into our collective fascination with the unknown.
Absolutely. I mean, they raise some huge questions about, government secrecy, extraterrestrial life, the nature of truth itself. They really challenge us to consider what's possible, even if it seems outlandish.
And at the very least, they make for one heck of a story.
They definitely do. You know what's really stuck with me from those documents? It's the level of detail they go into about the Roswell incident.
Oh, yeah, you mean that whole recovery operation? The way they describe it? Like it was some massive military undertaking?
Exactly, like in that Majestic.pdf document,
Uh-huh.
it says the debris was spread out over like a huge area.
Yeah, and they were using everything they had to make sure they recovered every last scrap.
And they were even using aerial reconnaissance to like scan the whole area.
It really gives you a sense of the scale of the operation, doesn't it? Makes you think about the resources they must have poured into it.
And the lengths they were willing to go to keep it under wraps.
Right, because in that document, it flat out states that the military managed to successfully cover up the truth.
Yeah, by convincing everyone it was just a weather balloon.
Which, raises some serious questions about the control they had over the narrative back then.
And how much they were willing to manipulate public perception. I mean, if they could pull off a cover-up of that magnitude back then, what else might they be hiding?
It's unsettling to think about, for sure. It makes you wonder what other secrets are still out there, just waiting to be uncovered.
And it is not just about Roswell either. That same document mentions other incidents too.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, there's this pretty chilling account of an object that entered the atmosphere in December 1950.
Okay, and what happened?
Well, it basically burned up completely. But it makes you wonder how many of these events were happening that we never even heard about.
Right, like if they were successfully covering things up the way that document suggests, it paints this whole picture of a hidden reality.
Exactly, like these things were going on all around us, and we were just completely oblivious.
It kind of makes you question everything you thought you knew about our history, doesn't it? Like what else is out there that we're not aware of?
Totally. And, speaking of things we're not aware of, that document also talks about a significant increase in UFO sightings in late 1952.
Interesting. So they were noticing a pattern then.
It seems like it.
Mm.
And it was causing some serious concern among intelligence officials.
You know what I find really fascinating about that? It's the fact that they even mentioned that the Majestic-12 group was debating whether or not to disclose the truth to the public.
Really? Wow, can you imagine what the world would be like if they had?
It would have been a completely different reality, wouldn't it? I just think about the implications of revealing the existence of extraterrestrial life back in the 50s.
Yeah, it would have been a game changer for sure. It makes you think about what might have been if they had chosen a different path.
But at the end of the day, they chose secrecy instead.
It makes you wonder what their reasoning was, What factors ultimately led them to that decision?
Maybe they were afraid of causing mass panic? Or maybe they just wanted to maintain control?
It's impossible to know for sure, but it's certainly something to ponder.
And that's what's so compelling about these documents, right? Whether they're real or fake, they make us think about these bigger questions.
Yeah, they tap into this primal fascination with the unknown, with what might be out there beyond our understanding.
And they challenge our perceptions of reality. They force us to confront the possibility that things might not be as straightforward as they seem.
So here we are, with these documents in front of us, stories of crashed spacecraft, alien bodies, government cover-ups. It's a lot to process. What stands out to you the most so far?
Honestly, I think it's just how much these documents resonate with our collective fascination with the unknown. They offer this glimpse into a world that's both terrifying and exhilarating.
Yeah, like a world where the line between science fiction and reality starts to blur.
Exactly. And I think one of the most important things to remember is that we don't have all the answers. We may never know for sure what really happened at Roswell or whether these documents are genuine.
But that doesn't mean we can't learn from them, right? I mean, they challenge us to think critically about the information we're given and to question what we believe.
They force us to consider different perspectives and to be open to the possibility that the truth might be far more complex than we ever imagined.
It's not about blindly accepting or rejecting information.
It's about engaging with it, critically thinking for ourselves, and forming our own conclusions based on the evidence.
And that's what makes this so much more than just a conversation about UFOs and government secrets. It's about how we approach knowledge and truth itself.
You're absolutely right. It's about understanding that the search for knowledge is a journey.
A journey that's full of twists and turns.
And sometimes leads us down paths we never expected.
It's really mind-boggling to think about the potential technology described in these documents. Like, if they're actually real,
Right.
we're talking about advancements way beyond anything we had back in the 40s, maybe even beyond what we had today.
I know. It makes you wonder, what if we'd had access to that kind of knowledge all those years ago? How would it have changed the course of history?
Right. Like, imagine if we'd been able to study and understand those advanced materials back then, the breakthroughs we might have achieved by now.
Yeah. Clean energy, maybe. Or some kind of revolutionary medical treatments.
Or even,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
the ability to travel beyond our solar system. It's like a glimpse into an alternate timeline, one where technology took a completely different path.
It's exciting to think about, but it also makes you realize the huge responsibility that comes with such advanced knowledge. What if those technologies fell into the wrong hands? It's a bit scary, actually.
Absolutely. It's not just about the technology itself, it's about how we use it. And these documents, even if they're not real, they force us to think about those ethical questions. Yeah.
Exactly. They remind us that technological progress isn't always a straight line. There are always trade-offs, potential risks, and benefits to consider.
Right. And the choices we make today can have consequences that ripple far into the future. It's like a cautionary tale, even if it's a fictional one.
I agree. We can't just blindly pursue progress without considering the potential downsides. We need to be responsible, think about the long-term consequences of our actions.
And it's not just about preventing misuse either. It's about making sure those advancements benefit everyone, not just a select few.
Right, equitable access. That's a crucial part of the equation.
Absolutely. We need to make sure we're using technology to create a better world for all of humanity, not just to further divide us.
These are tough questions, but they're questions we need to be asking.
I think that's one of the most important things these documents, real or not, do for us.
Yeah.
They make us think about the big picture.
Yeah, the kind of future we want to create, and what role technology should play in that future.
They challenge us to look beyond our own immediate needs and consider the long-term well-being of our planet and everyone on it.
And they remind us that what we might think of as science fiction today, well, it could be closer to reality than we realize.
And maybe those lines between what's possible and impossible are always shifting, always evolving as we learn and grow as a species.
Exactly. I think these documents, even if they're a hoax, they remind us of the power of curiosity. They push us to expand our horizons, to question our assumptions about what we think we know.
Yeah. And they remind us that there's still so much we don't know about the universe, so much left to discover.
It's like we're standing on the shore of this vast, unexplored ocean, and those documents are like a message in a bottle, just hinting at the incredible mysteries that might be out there.
And it makes you wonder, are we brave enough to set sail and explore those uncharted waters?
Are we ready for what we might find?
Well, personally, I have to say these documents have definitely reignited a sense of wonder in me. Like, they've reminded me that the search for knowledge and understanding is a journey that never really ends. And it's about more than just finding answers, you know?
It's about the journey itself, right? The questions we ask along the way, the connections we make. It's about that sense of awe and possibility.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave everyone with this thought. What if the most important discoveries aren't the ones we make out there in space? What if the real breakthroughs happen right here within ourselves as we learn and grow and evolve our understanding of the world and our place in it?
That's beautifully said.
Because ultimately, I think the search for extraterrestrial life is a reflection of our own search for meaning, our desire to understand who we are, why we're here, and what our place is in this vast, incredible universe.
It's a reminder that we're not just passive observers in this grand cosmic story. We're active participants. And the choices we make, the actions we take, they shape the narrative, not just for ourselves, but for future generations as well.
So keep exploring, keep asking those big questions, keep an open mind, and never stop searching for those amazing, mind-blowing discoveries that are out there waiting to be found.